Welcome to the first edition of The Signal, brought to you by journalism students from the University of King's College. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sarah MacMillan.
And I'm Meech, Kean. Each week we'll be coming to you from a different spot here in Halifax. This week we're at Pier 21, down on the waterfront, but more on this historic building later. This week on The Signal.
A North End landmark says goodbye.
Halifax remembers its veterans.
And helping new Canadians get some new wheels. Steve O'Reno's first coffee shop in the North End is closing after 20 years. The landlord is demolishing the property, so the store must go. Nick Holland has more on a final goodbye for a neighborhood landmark.
Friday morning and the flag still welcomes coffee junkies. But this is the last time. Steve O'Reno's stands out with its quirky drive-through and walk-through too, along with its staff, who knew most customers by name.
It's definitely sad. This is kind of the end of an era for part of Steve Reno's. Before that, it was basically my mom and dad selling smoothies at farmers markets.
The family business will take a hit to profits. The numbers aren't exact, but the shop has prepared for this big adjustment.
Have a good one, guys.
On the inside of this small shop, there is Ann Guy. For 12 years, she has said hello to customers. And now she's saying goodbye.
It's a little strange to be saying goodbye. I gotta say, I've known a lot of these people for a long time. I mean, Halifax is it's a small enough place, but it's also a big enough place. I know that some of these people I won't ever see again. And yeah, it's enough to choke anyone up.
From handwritten cards to alcohol, the gifts pile up. And so do the memories. For The Signal, I'm Nick Holland in Halifax.
Deep in the bowels of Dalhousie's engineering campus, there's a secret project in the works. Need a hint? It's fast, it's snowy, and it involves a special kind of winter driving. Linnea Volkering has the story.
It's concrete pouring day for Jessica Wenzel and her concrete toboggan teammates. The mission, build the perfect sled for the Great Northern Concrete Toboggan Race. The competition attracts engineering students from all over the world to face off in sleds of their own design.
We have to do everything ourselves. We don't really have a whole lot of help from faculty or anything. We can get some input, but it's all the students.
Last year, the team's attempt to be Greased Lightning fell short, earning the team 11th place in the race. This year, they're back in full force and hopeful that using greener materials will give them the edge that they need. The team will be reusing rubber tire crumbs, metallic residue, and crushed glass as a part of their concrete mix. But the big secret weapon is carbon dioxide.
Sustainability and innovation is a really big part of the competition. So we're hoping that will give us a leg up. And no other team is going to have this technology on their side.
Concrete captain Brendan Colwell is no stranger to the building process. He has spent 3 years with the team and thinks the real magic happens when the sled is done.
It's quite cool to be see it on drawings, and when you designed it and such, then you actually see it in front of you and race it down a hill going about 55 kilometers an hour. It's a thrill to me, so I'd say that's my favorite part about designing it.
The team will find out whether their design pays off at the annual race in Ottawa this January. For The Signal, I'm Linnea Volkering.
If you thought getting a tattoo was hard, try getting one removed. Tattoos are called permanent ink for a reason. Sarah Erickson has the story on why it's important to be careful when making that decision.
If you thought getting a tattoo was hard, try this. Marina Monroe says laser removal is a complicated process.
After we've removed the pigment, your skin is understandably very photosensitive. We go in and we cause a superficial burn wound.
Monroe says she loves helping people get rid of their unwanted tats. She says the process can be difficult though, and warns scarring is an issue if patients don't look after their skin. Monroe has been working to remove Kelly Chambers' ear tattoo. Chambers is happy with the results so far.
I decided to get rid of the ink. I'm happy about it. In the beginning, it was a little bit hard. You're erasing a piece of yourself that you thought when you were younger, but overall gratifying at the end of the day.
Getting laser treatment is not the only fix.
You're always going to end up with the scars, so it's got its pros and cons.
Nicole Nickerson, an employee at a Halifax tattoo shop, wants more people to consider cover-ups as a cheaper, quicker, and more satisfying alternative.
It's definitely not the drawn-out progression and the pain of a laser removal, which also in many cases leaves a scar behind. So as soon as you get tanned, you still have that tattoo.
When considering getting a laser tattoo removal, it is best to consider all of your options. For The Signal, I'm Sarah Erickson in Halifax.
Coming up on The Signal.
For decades, Pier 21 was the main immigration point for new Canadians, but it also had a major role in World War II. Pier 21 was the main departure point for Canadian soldiers fighting in Europe. More than 368,000 soldiers left through Pier 21 to serve on the European front. But Pier 21 still welcomed immigrants throughout the war. The war brides were women who married Canadian soldiers posted overseas. Between 1941 and 1947, more than 44,000 war brides and 21,000 children arrived in Canada, most of whom landed at Pier 21.
On November 11th, 1918, the guns fell silent on the Western Front. This marked the end of the First World War. Now, Remembrance Day honors the sacrifices of all servicemen and women. We have two stories this week on how Halifax marks this occasion. Luke Yates and Nick Holland have more.
I'm Luke Yates at Point Pleasant Park. Hundreds of people, civilian and military, gathered to remember the wartime sacrifices of the men and women of the Navy and Merchant Navy.
Remembering what the freedoms that we enjoy actually cost. It's very important. If we don't remember those sacrifices, those who made them in vain. And most likely we'll have to make them again, because those who don't remember the past are doomed to repeat it.
Thinking about everyone that is, putting their country before self, and thinking about maybe some stories of an old friend of mine that was a Korean War veteran who saw the ugliness of war and had to go through that, lost many of his friends as well. Those are the people I'm thinking of when I'm here.
Taxis were the hot topic this week at Halifax Council meeting on accessibility. Ben Jamieson has more.
Wheelchair accessible taxis are hard to find in Halifax. The 3 taxi zones in the city are Halifax City, Dartmouth, and the Greater County. But most wheelchair-friendly cabs stay in Halifax. The taxi zones were discussed at this week's Accessibility Council meeting. People just want the taxis to be distributed equally.
There are obviously other zones that are underserved, but they are serving the public. So there should be, if not, maybe not 100% accessible cabs, but there needs to be maybe a couple of hundred accessible cabs in the city.
Councillor Steve Craig, who chaired the meeting this week in Dartmouth, says that he recognizes that there is a problem with taxis, but he's unsure whether or not it's City Council's responsibility to solve it. A spokesman for taxi drivers says it is.
And over 70 accessible taxis have been licensed for Halifax, and they've all chosen the Halifax zone. So a person in Sackville, Dartmouth, Cole Harbour, and so on, if they can get an accessible taxi, they have to wait for one to come over from Halifax, and that's if they can get one.
The message is clear.
We want accessible taxis in every neighborhood.
For The Signal, I'm Ben Jameson.
Summer is long gone, and with it, bikes have gone into storage.
But here at The Signal, bicycles really spoke to us this week.
A bike store in Halifax had a busy day Saturday, and not because of anything they were selling. Sarah has the story.
Lots of people were happy to offer up their old bikes last weekend. Local groups teamed up to collect bikes for refugee families. Michael King donated 3 bikes.
I think we need to welcome all these newcomers, and I've been a mom and I'm a grandmother, and I know you have to keep little people busy. It'll be super, and they'll have so much fun and maybe forget some of the horrors that they've gone through, you know. Must be off.
Adam Barry was there helping out. Barry works for the Ecology Action Centre. He is involved with a program that will teach refugees how to ride and be safe.
We're collecting so many bikes today that I'm anticipating doing a lot of training and donation in the fall, in the spring. Yeah.
The organizers aim to collect at least 40 bikes.
Midway through the morning, roughly 100 bikes have already been donated, and people keep showing up. They say they're happy to help in some way.
Evelyn Noble brought her childhood bike from the 1950s.
I feel like, the bike came to me when I didn't have one, and I'm just happy it's going to be enjoyed by someone.
By the end of the day, the groups collected almost 170 bikes. These bikes will go into storage for the winter, but with the federal government's promise to bring more refugees to Canada, community groups like the ones collecting these bikes may soon have a lot on their plate. For The Signal, I'm Sarah MacMillan.
Biking in the park is a way to get some exercise and have some fun. But at Point Pleasant Park, things aren't that simple. Meech has more.
I do. Gary Mullins enjoys biking at Point Pleasant Park in the evenings. The problem for Mullins is that here at Point Pleasant Park, bikes aren't allowed on weekends.
If I were allowed to bike all week, maybe I would.
The current bike rules have existed basically as long as the park has, and although many remain indifferent, there are those that disagree.
If I'm allowed to take my dog off leash here, then I don't see why people shouldn't be allowed to ride their bikes.
If it's only on certain trails and there's lots of space for those of us who want to have our dogs off leash and no conflict, it's good.
The park should be open to bikes all the time. There's enough pathways and areas, and it's big enough to allow bikes, so I don't really see an issue with it.
Here at the maintenance building, the Point Pleasant Park Committee is meeting to talk about the park's future plans. Councillor Way Mason is here, making a push to allow bikes on weekends.
Well, I think it's something that needs to be explored. Bikes are in the park Monday to Friday. They're just not allowed in on weekends. And certainly the bikes are there on statutory holidays, and there aren't a lot of complaints. So it's something that I'd like us to have a look at.
You got to be careful. I actually bike with my own dog. You got to be careful, especially dogs. They can jump out in front of you or whatever, so you got to go slow around people.
Mason says there will still have to be rules in place that forbid bikes on the narrower paths. He says the next step is a feasibility study to see if the park could support weekend cyclists. But this is likely to take several months. For The Signal, I'm Meech, Kean.
What a great ride.
Well, we're not out of the woods yet, folks.
It used to be known as the Game of Kings. Polo has kept its reputation as a rich man's sport, but not the way they play it here in Halifax. Kat Monroe has the story.
They have a different way of fixing wheels. They cycle with mallets. And they're a little rough around the edges. This is not your typical polo team. The Halifax Bike Polo Club is not royalty, but they know how to play. People started playing bike polo back in the 90s, and the sport has since taken the world by storm. There are now nearly 400 teams playing all over the world. People are drawn to bike polo because it's unique, but they continue to play because of the friendships made both on and off the court.
There's a real camaraderie in the sport, so it's played in every major city in the world now. So if if you're part of a polo club somewhere, you can go to another city, and someone will let you sleep on their couch, and you'll meet a bunch of folks and get to play.
The Halifax bike polo team plays a tough game on the court, but they don't take themselves too seriously. They hope this positive attitude will get more people to give bike polo a shot. For The Signal, I'm Kat Monroe.
We're going to change gears now and put the brakes on all these bike stories.
Every child's nightmare has come true. Everyone is dancing like their dads. Sarah Erickson took to the streets on the hunt for dad dancing.
Dad dancing, that thing that Drake is really good at. Hotline Bling is the rapper's new video. In it, he showcases his dad dance moves while rocking a turtleneck. So, why not get Halifax to test its own groove? Bringing the 6 to the 902. Dad dancing.
Sorry?
Dad dancing.
Dad dancing?
Yeah.
Dad dancing?
Wait, what?
Dad dancing.
Dad's dancing?
Nothing comes to mind. I can't
No.
imagine it.
Actually, I just picture my dad having tequila and dancing in our living room. It's actually pretty funny. It's kind of weird and strange.
But I like Drake.
Is that the thing that, what's his name, NDP guy?
If I asked you to showcase your dance moves, your dad dance moves, would you want to give it a go?
Not really.
No.
No. No.
No. No. This is my dad dancing? Here comes the music.
Maybe like that? I don't really. Give it
tennis one.
I don't know.
There you go.
Well, it turns out Halifax knows how to dad dance, but not everybody wants to show off their 2 left feet. For The Signal, I'm Sarah Erickson in Halifax.
That's our show for this week. Next week, we'll be on Eastlink TV. That's Channel 10 on Eastlink Cable at 7:30 p.m.
For more from King's Journalism, check us out online at signalhfx.ca.
We hope you'll tune in next week. For The Signal, I'm Sarah MacMillan.
And I'm Meech Kean. Thanks for watching.